listening to The Trade Gods.
What's going on, Player Profiler Nation? Welcome to the latest episode of Trade Gods. I'm your host, Matty Kiwoom, joined by my fellow Trade God brethren, the morning man, the man that makes turtlenecks look damn near fantastic, my man Jason Allwine. What's going on, Jay?
Near fantastic.
It's still a turtleneck, Jay. It's still a turtleneck. It's still a turtleneck.
I was feeling great until that. Now I just feel pretty damn good.
Feeling great. Dang it. Let's run it back. Hold on. We're gonna run this back. We're just gonna run this back. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have to really run it back. It's gonna be a great episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
great episode. From all this positivity, you know, there was a reason why, though, Jay. At the top of the show, I introduced it with a little bit of negativity. Yeah. There's a reason for this. Okay, this is called hosting. It's called good hosting, Jason.
It is.
Because today we're talking about sells. We've been talking a lot about rookies to buy, vets to buy, strategies to buy, but today we're looking at the negative side of the coin. We're looking at some ticking time bombs, some players that are must sells in Dynasty. And how we're going to do that is we've been looking through the updated Dynasty rankings at Player Profiler. If you get the Dynasty Deluxe, you will get access to all the updated Dynasty rankings. And then Jason and I went through our personal Dynasty rankings and kind of sift through a little bit of discrepancies. And those are the ones that we're saying sell based on our Dynasty rankings. So it's a little fun twist on some diving, some deep diving in the Dynasty ranks. Also talking about the ones to sell. But again, it's going to be a good episode. What do you think here, Jay? Should we get it going?
Oh, I'm excited, man. This is going to be fun.
Let's do it. Dynasty sell numero uno, Jason. Who is it?
Yeah, we're going to notice a theme here. But before we get into the theme, we'll start with a player not on the same theme as the rest of the guys. And it's dusty, but very quick dust. Still some fast dust. I don't know what that would be called. Maybe like if a road runner was running through the desert and just kicking up the sand. That would kind of be what this player is. Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's Tyreek Hill. I'm selling Tyreek Hill, and the first thing that everyone says when I say I'm selling Tyreek Hill is what? And I get it. But when you look at the market, there's something a little fishy about his valuation. He's wide receiver 13 right now on Keep Trade Cut, wide receiver 12 on Player Profiler. And admittedly, I don't have him much lower in my personal Dynasty rankings down at wide receiver 18. But when you look at the rest of the people, his equals, his peers, none of them are even close to the same type of valuation that he's getting right now. And I understand that Tyreek Hill's coming off an incredible season, his best season yet, a near MVP type season. But he's 30 years old now. And the next wide receiver on Keep Trade Cut that is even 28 is Deebo Samuel. And he's wide receiver 31. So there is not a single 30-year-old wide receiver inside the top 30 on Keep Trade Cut rankings outside of Tyreek Hill. And he's all the way up in the top half, wide receiver 13, wide receiver 12 on Player Profiler. And I get it. I mean, he can win you weeks. He can win you your league if he stays healthy. But he is, as you said at the top of the show, a ticking time bomb. And you can use him and stay within the win now market. You can take Tyreek Hill. You can get like 10 Cooper Kupps right now. You can get 15 DeAndre Hopkins. It's insane, the difference in value right now between him and his peers. And so when I see that type of discrepancy in a particular market, because that's something in Dynasty as well, there's different markets. It's not just one big Dynasty market. We have the win now market, the rebuilding market, the tight end market, the running back market, the wide receiver market. All of these markets kind of work together. And when I'm looking at the old veteran wide receiver market and see Tyreek Hill almost triple value the rest of the guys, I've got to sell him. I can get a really nice win now wide receiver with a really nice cherry on top and move on from the guy before he explodes on my roster.
Jason's seeing the Matrix right now. He's talking about all these markets. He's just the trickling characters coming down. He's the one right now. He's full on Neo mode, making the blocks. And for you, just one for the podcast, so I'm doing the arm motion with Neo block everything. That's seeing the Matrix. I love it. analyzing all the different markets. It really is. It's truly a complicated matter, but that's why we're sickos. That's why we love the Dynasty game and playing it year round. My sell here is Joe Burrow. So on Player Profiler, he's QB 6th and 6th overall in Superflex. But for me in Dynasty, I'm at QB 9, 17th overall, which may not seem like a big jump, but 11 spots at the top of the draft is a big, big difference. And the reason being for Joe Burrow is obviously he's awesome.
Yes.
But awesome, there is no PPA. There is no points per awesome league. It's about and at the end of the day, he's routinely valued as a top 6, top 7, even top 5 quarterback, where he's only eclipsed that on a points per game basis once. Matter of fact, he's only had one season when he was better than QB 10 on a points per game basis. And there's this T. Higgins variable now. I know you bring in Jermaine Burton, but you lose the veteran presence of Tyler Boyd. So there is uncertainty. I'm not saying that Burrow is a bad asset in Dynasty.
Mhm.
So I'm not giving him away. But given the value and where these markets are predicting what you could get for him, he is the perfect tear down guy for me, where I could take a Joe Burrow, get a Kyler Murray, and potentially get a second round pick, third round pick, a combination of the two, or potentially an Isaiah Pacheco type, one of these RB2 guys. So I'm looking to move back because I have a lot of faith in Kyler Murray bouncing back this year. I have a lot of faith in Anthony Richardson bouncing back this year. So if I can take Joe Burrow and slide back and get an additional asset, I just think it really makes a lot of sense. It's a really good process play because I think we may have seen his ceiling, that one top 5 season that we saw in 2022. I don't know if we see that again over the next 2 years. So if you could sell at that price right now, you're really starting to build out your roster at the top. And in startups, I know this is really Dynasty sells, so we're talking the trade. But if you want to just morph that into your startup strategy, if he's the best QB available, I'm okay taking him there and immediately trying to get the conversations going. If someone doesn't want to trade for the 106 because they see the pick, make him see the player and make him trade for Joe Burrow. So that's a little bit of strategy. But I'm looking to sell Joe Burrow. Another player that I would acquire as a piece of a package to sell Joe Burrow is Caleb Williams. But you, my friend, see it a little bit differently. So let's roll into your sell target number 2 in Dynasty. So basically, this is a scenario where team had the 101, they took Caleb Williams, or they just had their startup, took him probably at the end of the first, early second, they have Caleb Williams. But you're saying that you might be able to get something for the 101 in the 2024 NFL draft. So talk about selling Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same process of selling Joe Burrow. Now, I have Joe Burrow at quarterback 7 in my own personal ranking, so I still think he's valued about right. But I think the big thing that you talked about is that the quarterbacks right now, you can get points for cheap, really. We just had Jared Goff have a top 10 season. Matthew Stafford's been top 5. Who knows where Kirk Cousins might finish this year? Basically, what I'm saying is, if you want points, you can get them from a lot of quarterbacks in the league. And when you have some of these top options, you could, try to address a weakness somewhere else on your roster and still scrape up those points in the quarterback room with a cheaper option. And so when it comes to Joe Burrow, as you said, or in my case, Caleb Williams, I am just more comfortable taking that high value and taking a chance on some of the cheaper quarterbacks and seeing what fun coupons I can get on top. Because right now, Caleb Williams is valued as if he's already broken the Chicago Bears curse of never throwing for 4,000 yards or 40 touchdown passes. Right now, he's valued really, really high. I mean, he's valued ahead of Anthony Richardson on Keep Trade Cut and right up there with Joe Burrow at quarterback 7 and quarterback 8 on Player Profiler. He hasn't played a fucking snap. He has not played a snap in the NFL right now, and we are treating him as if he's already an all-pro. I'm not doing that. I think that's bad process. I'm going to take Caleb Williams, and I'm going to go try to get Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, and get a cherry on top because those guys have proven it. Those guys are already on good offenses that we're not projecting to get better, that we know are going to get better. And so I mentioned the quarterback 7, quarterback 8, player profiler, keep trade cut. I've got him right now at quarterback 12. So, I mean, I still have him ranked pretty high. I'm expecting a good season from him, but I want to see it happen first. And I can get the same amount of points, if not more, from a more proven asset and get something fun else on my roster. I'm going to do that 10 times out of 10. And, you know, if Caleb Williams burns me, he does, but I just don't see much room to grow. Like, is he like, what will he have to do to pass CJ Stroud? So much. And I don't see that happening. So I think at the very least, this is the top of his market. And I think you can just stay within the quarterback area and get someone nice and another piece.
So I just want to finish painting the picture of what you laid out here, where we're going to use our lifetime value that we have at Player Profiler. And again, you can get that over the Dynasty Deluxe package. Taking a Caleb Williams or the 101, let's just call it the 101 for anyone who doesn't have their rookie draft yet.
Yeah.
You could potentially move it for a Jordan Love and a Chris Olave and the 104. So the process here is just saying that Caleb's a great player to have. He's exciting. You said you have him inside the top 12, so you're excited about him. But sometimes we have to take advantage of the excitement. And if you can get a Jordan Love, because I'm a big Jordan Love guy, I'm a big Kyler Murray guy heading into this year. So I do like that process. And we're kind of lockstep here in what we're saying about high-end quarterbacks. We understand that they're valuable. And I think that's why we're kind of talking about them as tier down players, as opposed to just take your quarterback, give me Justin Jefferson. That gets a little murkier. And you're talking about now you have to equate what your QB4 is, QB3, what format. So I think what we're preaching here is really just capitalizing on peak market quarterbacks and using that to tier down and using, tools like the Dynasty Deluxe to get these lifetime value points, so we can kind of calculate the trades that we're breaking down. My next buy is the second rookie that we're talking about. My first rookie that we're talking about. I'm selling Brian Thomas Jr. I like Brian Thomas, the prospect. Yeah. He's a player that grew on me, considering, how can you not like Brian Thomas? 6'3", 210 pounds, ran a 4.33, compares best to a Christian Watson. Of course, you like that player. What I hate is now the situation, because him and Christian Kirk would have been a fantastic match, because Christian Kirk, like it or not, he's a target, gobbler. This guy sees a lot of targets per game. He's very QB friendly, has built the rapport with Trevor Lawrence, and then attacking more, your outside players, your X role with a Brian Thomas would have been a great thing to see. But, the Jaguars can't get out of their own way, and they they pay Gabe Davis. I believe that Brian Thomas is a far superior player to Gabe Davis, but Gabe Davis being there and getting the contract that he did will warrant touches, looks, opportunities, targets, all those things. And right now on Player Profile, Brian Thomas is a wide receiver 35, 82nd overall in Superflex. But for me, I got him at wide receiver 47, 106th overall. So there's a big gap there in which I'm looking to capitalize and sell. And so Brian Thomas for a reroll at the 2025 draft, I might do that if I'm deep at receiver. But if I'm a more win now approach, I'm looking for a body on the field right here, right now. You're able to move him for players like DeAndre Swift if you need a running back, Terry McLaurin plus, Amari Cooper plus, Keenan Allen plus, Evan Ingram, Deontay Johnson, these players that can help you win now, these kind of values, players that we've talked about, these buys in Dynasty over the last few weeks, Jason. So I'm going to take the unproven. I'm going to sell it for more proven talent, because I think that the Gabe Davis signing just caps his upside year 1, year 2, potentially year 3 of his rookie contract. And that alone is the difference of 20 points for me in Dynasty, which is why he's a sell candidate. We're going to keep the train rolling. We got 10 total sells, these ticking time bombs, if you will. But before we do, I keep talking about this Dynasty Lux thing, but let's hear what the Podfather has to say about it.
This episode is brought to you by Player Profiler, the Dynasty Deluxe package. The rankings are the best in the industry. It includes strategy mode where you can say, hey, change the rankings to be win now. Oh, change the rankings to be productive struggle. There's also a draft planner to help to strategize where you should take players because the draft planner also includes ADP. There's a trade finder where we look up on My Fantasy League and we see trades that are done, including a particular player. Then there's a trade analyzer where you can plug in draft picks, players, and we assign a lifetime value to draft picks out 5 years. The best thing about our trade analyzer, it can't be gamed with volume. And there's mock draft data to see right now what's the market for player X versus player Y, including in the fall when very few mock drafts are happening. And our Dynasty guide, the Dynasty Dominator, would cost you $10 on Amazon, but you get it for free with Dynasty Deluxe, and you get our rookie guide for free, a $25 value. So you get all of that for $45. I mean, it's a great deal.
Matty, Kiwoom, Jason Allwine. The trade gods are talking Dynasty ticking time bombs. 10 players to sell in Dynasty right now. The 2024 class for running backs was kind of murky. It was a little unsettling. We didn't know how it was going to pan out. Both of us have players on our sell list that are rookie running backs. So why don't you talk about the rookie running back that you're selling in Dynasty right now?
Yeah, and this is going to end up being league dependent. It seems his valuation is kind of differing in a lot of different leagues I'm in, and on Keep Trade Cut and Player Profiler and my own rankings. So I'm going to say Jonathan Brooks for now. I do like Jonathan Brooks as a prospect, and I don't necessarily hate his landing spot, but I do think it's an uphill battle. And because of that, I wouldn't mind offloading Jonathan Brooks right now and trying to maybe buy him back a little bit later when he takes a little bit of a dip in value, because coming off an ACL injury on an offense that's now going through a whole new coaching change that was already bottom of the league last year that needs a lot to get better, he's probably not going to be wildly productive in year one, even if he ends up being maybe pretty good towards the end of the season. But I still think basically what I'm saying is I think there's going to be another buying opportunity for him. And when I look at Keep Trade Cut, he's RB10 right now, like ahead of the Kenneth Walkers of the world. Player Profiler and myself have him down at RB15. So we're, still pretty high on him. But those 5 running backs, the Kyron Williams, the Kenneth Walkers, the Isaiah Pacheco's, the DeAndre Swifts of the world, like those guys, just a little bit more proven. James Cook, Rashad White, Josh Jacobs, but valued about the same. And so I would kind of take those guys right now and then maybe see what I could do with Jonathan Brooks later. Or even if you want to stay young, Trey Benson down at RB16 on Keep Trade Cut, but RB14 at Player Profiler, so even ahead of Jonathan Brooks. So there's an opportunity to where you could even just trade Jonathan Brooks for Trey Benson and get a little cherry on top in some leagues. Now, in some leagues, Trey Benson is valued ahead of Jonathan Brooks. It really does kind of depend. But if you can pull that off, I'd do it, because they both kind of have murky year one situations and are more likely going to hit their true ceiling in 2025, which is really when you need to be buying them beforehand. But for now, I think you can offload them and maybe buy them again later.
I want to take you through a situation. I want to get your expertise on this situation. So you sell now with the expectation to buy back cheaper later. Let's say you sell for something you're happy with. All of a sudden, 2 days later, Miles Sanders gets cut. Not saying this is likely. They take a pretty significant cap hit if they do cut him. I don't expect them to cut Miles Sanders. Let's just say they do, though. Clearing the path for Jonathan Brooks to be a RB1 type in fantasy football. You see the price go up higher than you paid. Are you still willing to jump back into Brooks later at a higher price? So are you willing to gamble? Because I think what this answer will help some of our gamers feel confident in the sell now. If you're still willing to buy, even though his price went up, it didn't work out the way you were thinking. Are you still willing to buy into the player later at a higher price?
Yeah, but I mean, even if they cut Miles Sanders, I don't think it's going to do too much, because I mean, you even look at like the underdog ADPs, and Chuba Hubbard is available super, super late. And I mean, he made, Miles Sanders into nothing last year, barely got any snaps when he was on the field. So think of anything, like he's kind of the bigger threat to what Jonathan Brooks would do. But even in that scenario, say Chuba Hubbard gets injured and Jonathan Brooks is still valued really highly. Still, he's not going to be active for the first few weeks of the season. So I don't expect him to truly hit his ceiling anytime soon, even with an injury, even with a cut. And to answer your question, I would be comfortable buying back into him at more than what I gave if I had to, but I don't see him going up like too much. Like, because the RB rankings are kind of pretty packed. I mean, of course, Bijan Priest, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, but I mean, like Jonathan Taylor, Saquon, ETN, like those guys are probably going to stay where they are. So even like at most, he's probably going up to what, like RB8 from 10. So I don't think he's ever going to become way too expensive, at least until maybe next year, if the Panthers offense does truly excel, if Chuba Hubbard does move on and he becomes the true featured back, they don't add anyone in the draft, all of this stuff. But that's so many things that has to happen. So I'm comfortable taking the risk now. If I get burned by it, it is what it is. There's still plenty of other running backs out there, and I probably still got a good running back or a good wide receiver or a good quarterback or something for him. So I won't necessarily be hurting just because, I mean, he's valued pretty highly right now.
You just completely sold me. I think that breakdown was perfect in my opinion. Just kind of watching you kind of break it down in the way of just market values for Jonathan Brooks makes a ton of sense. And I think you can apply all that to the guy I'm going to talk about, Blake Corum. But to talk more of the personal reasons why I was selling Corum, but I think that principle aligns all throughout the rookie class. So if you want to tear down at any point or trade one of those rookies for anything, I think that was perfectly said. So I would absolutely apply that to Blake Corum. But personally, I was selling Blake Corum because I just have a big discrepancy in ranks where he's a top 100 player in Superflex on Player Pro. I am at 132, so I'm way outside of the top 100. And when you look at his lifetime value, he could be the guy that you move on from and get your turning your wide receiver room into a true weapon in your league, acquiring a Terry McLaurin, acquiring Christian Watson, Deontay Johnson, Christian Kirk, Chris Godwin, all of these veteran guys that should come into 2024 and put up, wide receiver 2 floors, really, really strong seasons and help you get over that hump to win a championship. But I'm not really going to add a whole lot because I think that the breakdown on Jonathan Brooks very much applies and was a great articulation of how I was kind of thinking of playing the Blake Corum, because I think his value is capsized by the Kyren Williams. I don't think he's going anywhere, and even if there's a Kyren Williams injury, how much of a ceiling does Blake Corum have when he's already being valued as a top 100 player? Where does he ascend to is a good prediction. So I love that breakdown, Jason. I could steal your thoughts on all of the Trade God viewers. They're going to get it too. That's why you tune in the Trade Gods. This is why we're the best in the biz. Who is your fourth sell candidate, Jason, that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so this is going to be kind of a grouping of people. I think last week we talked about buying some of these older tight ends, TJ Hawkinson and Mark Andrews, because I think that they're being disrespected in their value right now. And that's because there are 3 young tight ends that I think are overvalued, namely Dalton Kincaid, Trey McBride, and now Brock Bowers. Dalton Kincaid at the tight end 4 on Keep Trade Cut and Player Profiler. I have him at tight end 6. Trey McBride is tight end 2 or 3 at Keep Trade Cut Player Profiler. I have him at tight end 5. And then Brock Bowers, tight end 3 at Player Profiler 2 on Keep Trade Cut. I have him down at tight end 8. We've just got to see it. We just we haven't seen it happen. You know who has done it? Kyle Pitts, TJ Hawkinson, and especially Mark Andrews. And so I would love to take my Kincaids, my McBrides, my Bowers, and try to get any 3 of those tight ends specifically with the cherry on top. I think that is where I'm going to end the tier down, because I do still think that they are pretty talented players, of course. Trey McBride last year was electric. He finished the year with over 10 points per game, despite starting the year off slow, finished with over 800 receiving yards. But Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't there, right? And Hollywood Brown was a shell of himself and injured last season. So, I mean, he was force-fed targets. Towards the end of the year, from week 8 to week 18, he had 5 games with over 9 targets. One of them had 14 damn targets, multiple 20-point games. But again, hasn't done it with Marvin Harrison Jr., a wide receiver who is going to command a ton of targets. I don't think Trey McBride is going to be bad by any means. In fact, I think he's still going to be really good. But when you see him at tight end 2, tight end 3, he's not going any higher. He's not going to pass Sam Laporta. And there's some other tight ends, TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, behind him that I think could jump him. Same kind of applies to Dalton Kincaid, who hasn't had a single game with Dawson Knox active with 9 targets or 90 receiving yards. In 7 of the 11 games he played with Dawson Knox, he didn't even get 10 points. He has not really been that good. And yes, Stephon Diggs is leaving, but they brought back in Keon Coleman. They just extended Curtis Samuel. James Cook is still back there taking a ton of passes. I think, in my own opinion, it's going to kind of be spread around a lot. And I'm sure, again, Dalton Kincaid will have some good weeks. But again, when you see him at tight end 4, he doesn't have much room to grow. And lastly, Brock Bowers, same exact thing. We haven't even watched the dude play football yet. We don't even know who his quarterback is going to be. It's going to be Gardner Minshew. But Devontae Adams is still there. Jacoby Myers is still there. They just spent a ton of draft capital on Michael Mayer. And so when you see him at tight end 2, tight end 3, he, again, has not much room to grow. I'm tearing down from these guys. I'm getting some of the older tight ends, but even then, I mean, Mark Andrews is 28. TJ Hawkinson hasn't even got to 27 yet. Like, that's not too old for a tight end. I want those guys more than I want these guys. And I just think right now that the youth and the decent years and projected, growth into their season coming up is kind of hyping them up a bit too much. So I'm moving on from the big 3 young tight ends: Dalton Kincaid, Trey McBride, Brock Bowers.
When we talk about the quarterbacks, we explicitly mentioned the tearing down nature of the process. Do you feel the same at tight end, or are you okay moving the young tight end for like the elite wide receiver or a package of the elite running back and another, a wide receiver 3, however it breaks down?
Yes, because we've talked about this a few times. There's a weird strategy that we have when it comes to tight ends, and it's either stay within the top tier, so don't go too much further than, say, Travis Kelce in this scenario. Never attack the middle tier. Like, don't go trade for Dalton Schultz. Don't go trade for Dallas Goedert. Go all the way down and hope that they break out, because we saw the same exact thing before. Trey McBride last year was on waiver wires, and now he's the dynasty tight end 2. And so you can take my favorite target, for example, Dalton Kincaid, and get Jelani Woods and 2 firsts. And in my opinion, your tight end room still has some ceiling, but you're also getting a ton of draft capital. And that's not even a wild trade offer that I just came up with. And there's a ton of those. I mean, Mike Gesicki, he has an opportunity in Cincinnati. Jonnu Smith has an opportunity down in Miami. We've got Colby Parkinson over at the Rams. He has an opportunity. Noah Fant, going into a year now with new system in Seattle. Maybe they'll finally use the tight end position. He can tap into the athleticism. Who knows? Maybe Greg Dulcich will stay healthy for a season. It's just that maybe Tucker Kraft will beat out Luke Musgrave. I mean, like, I can name so many just cheap tight ends. Zach Ertz could, stay healthy this year and be good for the Commanders and make the Senator a backup. Anyway, basically, I do like going outside the position, because I do think that since the tight end is such a hellscape, you can get by with some of the bottom of the barrel guys, especially if they do hit their ceiling.
So the key distinction here, and I want everyone tuning in to take this, take this away from what you're talking about. When we're tearing down at quarterback, we want to stay in certain tiers, right?
Yes.
You don't want to send it. Tight end, however, we will go full send.
Yeah. And
just shoot down that ladder, grab someone towards the bottom, and just rack up the secondary, tertiary, the secondary pieces that you can get in Dynasty. So that's a key distinction. Tearing down at quarterback, you probably want to stay within, a range. Tight end, send that bitch and absolutely tear down. The next sell, the time bomb that I have, he's really not a time bomb as much as I labeled this player in Dynasty right now as my golden ticket. We often refer to future picks as fun coupons here at Trade God. So this is my ultimate fun coupon in a player. This is my golden ticket asset, and it's Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Right now in PlayerProfiler, wide receiver 22, valued as a top 50 overall player in Dynasty. I have him at wide receiver 31 outside of my top 50. I have him at 74, so barely hanging on to the top 75. And the reason why I label him as my golden ticket is when you look at the value of which he holds in a lot of markets, you can move him for Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne, top of the market running backs. You can move him for the Michael Pittmans, Devontae Smiths, Brandon Ayuk's. You're not far off from getting a Drake London with a Jaxon Smith-Njigba. He is the golden ticket to either, if you, and this goes for any which avenue you're taking as a dynasty manager. If you're trying to win now, he is an even better golden ticket because you can bring on such win now talent. And if you're rebuilding, you can move on and get a pillar, a franchise-esque player that you could quickly use to expedite your rebuild, like the Brandon Ayuk's, like the Devontae Smiths, like potentially Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave. You're knocking on the door of this type of value at receiver. And again, I already talked about getting top of the market at running back. And in Superflex, he's valued in such that maybe you could grab a Jared Goff. Maybe you could bring aboard a Bryce Young, a Will Levis, if you want a young, projectable quarterback. You're sitting in the driver's seat to make a great deal that really benefits your dynasty team. And when you look at Jaxon Smith-Njigba, he's on a team where he already saw 93 targets. So it's not like he was just completely thrown by the wayside in Seattle. He got 93 targets. He turned that into 8.8 fantasy points per game. Wide receiver 56 on a points per game basis. He played all 17 games. DK Metcalf, he's still there. Tyler Lockett, he's still there. Noah Fant is still there. Kenneth Walker is still there. A head coach was brought in that theoretically is going to want to slow the game down and win on defense in Mike McDaniel coming from the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if Jaxon Smith is a guaranteed wide receiver 2 in Dynasty. And you can use him right now to basically buy whatever you want in a top 35 to 50 range in Dynasty. That's why he is my golden pit ticket. Any thoughts on JSN, Jason?
Yeah, I am both buying and selling him kind of. I found in a few leagues, and I am currently trying to sell him because I've bought him so many times and I just want to see what I can get. And I do think the market is pretty decent. You can get a solid return on, let's face it, an asset still with some risk. I know I was super high on him going into his rookie season, and it kind of burned me. And I still truly do believe in the athlete and the player, but I think it might just still take a little bit more time. And if anything, again, we talk about the insulation of markets in this damn game. He probably doesn't go too much higher. I don't think he cracks the top 12 at least anytime soon. Like, I don't think he goes into that totally unreachable dynasty wide receiver tier. So if you do move on from him, I think he's probably reacquirable if you start to regret it at some point. So I don't mind it. I do still like JSN a lot, and I'm curious to see what happens in Seattle. But they've got to fix the quarterback. I don't think anything special is going to happen with Geno Smith or Sam Howell at the helm.
Yeah, you're in for a long build, I think, with Jason. Jason, I'm going to go ahead and talk about my fifth and final because your final sell is a bazooka.
Yeah,
we're talking time bombs. Yours might be a nuke, so we're going to save that to close the show. And I talk about golden tickets. This is yet another example of a potential golden ticket. In some formats, he's probably the platinum ticket. He's probably the most sought after ticket that you can sell right now. It's Devon Achane. Right now, a player profile has a market as a running back 5, 29th overall player in Superflex. I am at running back 11, 46th overall player in Dynasty. So again, it's not that I think Achane is bad or that he's in a bad situation. It's just that he's a little small and we were worried about injuries, and he got hurt twice last year. And that is enough of a disc. That is going to hurt his value enough for me that I'm looking to sell if I can get top 30 player right now in Dynasty for Achane. And again, 46. So I have him as a top 50 player. But if I can now move him and get Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, I can use him to get Christian McCaffrey. I don't have to put a whole lot more. And I might be able to get Malik Neighbors, AJ Brown. I might be able to get a top 20 player in Superflex if I'm willing to give up a secondary piece. I'm looking to do it. I just am in a guy like Devon Achane who has so many question marks. We know he's fast. He was the most insanely efficient running back we've ever seen on this Dolphins team, but he got hurt, and they brought in a running back to theoretically give him less opportunities. And efficiencies are tough to bet on year to year. So again, I like the player, top 50 player, but if I could sell a top 30, use him to get into the top 20, Jason, I'm selling Achane. So any thoughts on Achane? And then go ahead. The floor is yours. I'm going to sit back and enjoy the Oppenheimer.
Yeah, dude, we actually watched Oppenheimer for the first time yesterday, so that's kind of
a good movie.
It was a solid film. Anyway, Devon Achane, we here on the Trade Gods, we've been selling him even before they drafted Jalen Wright. We just felt it was a bit too much. And then drafting Jalen Wright, who we now both have coined buys, it's going to make me want to get rid of him even more. And I don't think the Jalen Wright drafting really did anything to hurt Devon Achane's value really at all. I think he went from like 5 to 6. So I still think that he's pretty high at the top of his market. And yes, he's going to score 50 points week 1, and we're going to be really sad. But then I'm sure exactly what you predicted by like week 15, Jalen Wright is going to be scoring 50 points as well, where Mostert's going to score some 40 burgers. And it's just going to be a committee backfield with everyone having fun. So I don't mind moving on from Achane, as much as I'm sure there's going to be some weeks where you truly regret it. Yeah, but that's just the nature of the game. There'll be some weeks where you don't regret it as well, and that's just the fun. Will you trade Blake Corum for Jalen Wright, by the way? Is that like a swap you'd try to do?
Oh yeah, I have Jalen Wright ranked higher than Blake Corum anyway.
Same.
So if I could, I would have been taking Jalen Wright ahead of Blake Corum. So I don't have that situation in many leagues, but yeah, I definitely wouldn't. If you could get even anything on top of it, if that's just kind of what your league market's predicting, for sure, take it.
Cool. All right. Well, you ready for the bomb? Oh. All right. I'm already prepared for like whatever tweets come my way, negative comments come my way, but I'll be laughing. I'll be the one laughing, getting the last laugh. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, maybe not the year after that, and maybe not even the year after that. But at some point, Don't do that. In.
Don't do the Max Kellerman on Brady. Don't be that guy. Remember when he said he's going to fall off the cliff and he kept riding it 10 more years? Don't do that. It's happening this year. If you're saying it.
And I'm not saying it's happening this year, but Josh Allen is a dynasty sell. He is. He's not Tom Brady. So I'm not even saying he's going to fall off. Actually, you know what? Screw it. I kind of am saying he's going to fall off a cliff because let's go. Before we've seen it before, ladies and gentlemen. When was the last time we saw a 6'5", 240 plus quarterback that ran through tackles with reckless abandon? Oh, Mr. Cam Newton, who scored top 8 in his first 7 of 8 seasons as a Panthers starter in points per game, finished top 5 in 5 of those years, and was top 15 every single year he was a starter for the Panthers until what? Until he got injured, missed 14 games in the 2019 season, then totally fell out of the league, went to the New England Patriots.
I don't want to hear this. No, that didn't exist. It's Drake May. Let's go.
He went to the Patriots. He tried to go back to the Panthers. He lost it. He just lost it. And Josh Allen, lightning in a bottle. I love him. You can get so much for Josh Allen right now because if you look, quarterback 1 last year, quarterback 2 the year before that, quarterback 1 the year before that, quarterback 1 the year before that. I mean, dude has been winning leagues year after year after year after year. But Matty, Kiwoom, if we went gambling and we went up to the roulette table and won by betting on black 20 times in a row, how many times is black going to win? Like, how many times is it just going to land on black again? And I know that that's the gambler's fallacy, but this is real life that we're talking about. And players don't stay great forever. And when you're talking about a guy that has literal maximum value, 9,999 value points on the trade cut, it can't go higher. And I'm selling because I do think that this situation that Josh Allen is going to is going to be tough. He has now lost Stephon Diggs. Keon Coleman could be good. Dalton Kincaid could be good. But Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, James Cook, and Ray Davis, they're cycling through coordinators because things went awry last season. He was top 5 in danger plays, second in interceptions last year, threw more than 1 interception per game with 18 on the season. Bottom half of the league, outside of the top 16 in deep ball completion percentage, deep ball catchable pass rate, pressured completion percentage, pressured catchable pass rate. Those are the things you need to keep if you want to have a long time in this career. If you can't be a pocket passer in your 30s, your career is done. Josh Allen is going into his 29-year-old season in 2025. It's getting close. He's 28 right now. He has no weapons, really. No true weapons that we've seen excel. Coordinators cycling in and out. A competitive division, taking hits after hits after hits after hits because of his play style. At some point, it's going to catch up to him. He's a ticking time bomb on your rosters. Go get Patrick Mahomes. Go get CJ Stroud. Go get Jalen Hurts. Go get Lamar Jackson. Go get Anthony Richardson. Go get Joe Burrow. Go get Jordan Love. Go get those quarterbacks and enjoy it, because you could also fill out the rest of your roster. You could get so much. Matty, Kiwoom, do you remember what I gave you for Josh Allen in one of our leagues last season?
It single-handedly put me in contention the entire year. I got
literally
2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs. It was insanity.
Yeah, and to be fair, I did not want to do the trade. It was I co-managed with 2 other people. The 2 other people wanted to do it. But for the audience, we gave CJ Stroud, Daniel Jones, which ended up being okay. I think Breece Hall or something like that.
No, Breece Hall.
Tank Dell, John Mechie, Jaden Reed, and a bunch of other stuff for Josh Allen. And it took my team that finished 3rd place, didn't even make the playoffs the next year. It took your team that was in last place, one of the worst teams. It was an orphan you took over, pretty damn close to the playoffs.
Almost made it, yeah.
Yeah. And so you can get so much for Josh Allen. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it because I do think at some point, literally as close as comparable, Cam Newton had a very similar career, electric until he wasn't. And I know it's a dangerous game to play. And I know, for the next couple seasons or whatever, he's going to be burning me. But I don't want him on my roster. I'd rather take the risk on some other quarterbacks with a projected longer career that, doesn't play a dangerous game.
God damn it, Jason. You've now sold me on 2 things in one episode, because now I'm 100% on the Josh Allen train, because now the way you talk about it was age 30 for Cam. It was
exactly age 30.
And we're looking at a season now. The Buffalo Bills are going to be asked, Josh Allen plays like a cowboy anyway.
Yes.
But they're going to be asking him to play they're going to ask him to play like Superman now. Their defense isn't as good. Their offensive line isn't all that good. The weaponry I don't know if it's better or worse, and as a collective. Yeah. And with this guy, you're not looking at this type of player, this type of play style. You're not looking at a slow decline where, you might not be able to jump off at QB1, but you can jump off at QB8. You can jump off at QB12. No, you're probably jumping off from QB1 to QB12.
Yeah,
in a matter of a year and a half.
Yeah, it
happened like that.
It just comes out of nowhere for players like this. And I love Josh Allen. Tons of fun to watch. Awesome football player. But when you play like that, it's going to catch up to you. It just will. So I want to go ahead and get rid of it while he's literally maximum. No one in Dynasty has ever been valued as high right now, ever. So just wash your hands of it. Enjoy it, especially those of you that took him in your rookie drafts and held through the shitty rookie season. Anyway, it's time.
Ticking time bombs. Theme of the show: sell at peak market, or at least projectable peak market. He's Jason Allwine. I'm Matty Kiwoom. We are the Trade Gods, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.